Welcome, everybody, to episode 14 of You Can't Comp This podcast. We are going to be continuing on from last episode's discussion, which was around first-time All-Stars. This week, we are going to discuss Ja Morant, Andrew Wiggins, and also Lamelo Ball. So thank you so much for listening. And we're going to get straight into it with Ja Morant versus Lamelo Ball.
Is this the part where we just tell people, if you're selling out of Zion, this is the next decision you've got to make?
No.
Lamelo or Ja?
No. Let's just talk about Lamelo Ball first, and he's, just where he sits in the hobby space, and what are your thoughts on Lamelo right now?
Lamelo, strength to strength. This guy, everyone thought he might have been a flash in the pan. This year is showing that he's not just a flash in the pan. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
He's putting up some very serious numbers.
Yeah. Well,
and he's doing it against some very serious competition.
And robust numbers too. I think that's the thing too. Efficient numbers. His shooting's improved. His defensive metrics aren't, amazing, but
funnily enough, though,
they're holding tight. Yeah.
His Silver Prism PSA 10 is actually down 20% over the last 3 months.
Yeah, that's interesting. I saw that too. What's your thoughts on that?
I feel like it ebbs and flows, because we look at the low of January 14 sale of Silver Prism PSA 10 for $2,300 US.
Yeah.
So if we go, we look at sort of 2 months. Oh, we can't. We go to 1 month. He's steady over the 1 month. He's actually up over 5% over the month. I think that was just a bit of a dip. I actually think that the peak bit where it started at, hang on, I'm just going to get the price, $3,900 US.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the end of November. So he started the season all guns blazing, and everybody said, oh, wow, this kid is actually the real deal. And I feel like there was a spike before that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, that's the start of the season. Oh, no, this wasn't a fluke. And then things sort of stabled off a bit. People started picking up steam towards Christmas, and in the new year is when I suppose you've got the new lot of releases. You've got new hoops dropping. The current season releases begin, and maybe he's just out of favor there. But he bounces back once he's an all-star.
Yeah,
he's an interesting one.
Look, my feeling about this guy dropping is I don't think this is performance-based at all. I actually think it's people who have bought this guy as an investment. They waited to a particular time to cash in. And I probably think around that time, the NBA was buzzing along really nicely. He was playing well, like you said. So I don't think this is something to be worried about. I think it's just more that, let's be honest here, he did attract a huge amount of hobby attention. And I do think that he literally carried, an entire hobby season. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
I think at the start, everyone was a little bit unsure, who to really chase and who the top dog was. And he really established himself, really, really strongly.
Yeah.
So when I see those numbers, I'm not particularly worried. I think there's always a little bit of sort of variance there. And I think the other thing we kind of glossed over a little bit, he was up to 4,000 US. So let's just take stock for a second. He's 10x what Garland is. So would you rather 10 Garland PSA 10s or 1 Lamelo? I think the better money is 10 Garlands.
That's true. Look.
So, we're talking about a very large amount of money here. So if people are going to move in and out of the market, I think that's okay. And I don't think that really matters. The other thing I think is super interesting, and it really says a lot about where we're sitting in the current hobby stage. So if you're on Card Ladder and you've got silvers up as the variant, then down click, I'm on PSA 10, but when you down click that, it's also got SGC 10, BGS 9.5, SGC 9.5, on and on, down the list. And I think that actually says a lot about our current hobby status. So people couldn't get access to PSA, they couldn't get access to BGS, so now they've been sending off their cars to SGC. I think this is probably
There's actually
also,
a big. I'm also going to point out there's a massive difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10.
yeah,
It's 10x.
yeah.
Almost. It's 9x
That's a
effectively.
conversation to itself, but I'd probably say, a while back we talked about Card Ladder being bought out and there was going to be investment money being spent on it. That's where those investment dollars are spent because they're expanding their database. So not only are they carrying now stats for PSA and BGS, they're now also carrying stats for SGC. So that also is a narrative too about, what are the other grading companies that are winning the race.
Mm.
SGC is now like essentially being legitimized.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. My sort of final thought about this is I really value the hobby because you can collect the hobby at the $1 price point and you can collect it at the $4,000 price point.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy a PSA, let's say PSA 8 of this guy, because this is what you can afford, his last sold price was 199. If you can, and when I say only afford this, I'm not saying this in a condescending way. I'm saying this because you're being financially responsible and this is how much money you have to spend on cards. I think that's a really good buy because it's a little bit like Luca a few years back. I actually felt that the PSA 9s and 8s were much better buys in terms of long term because as PSA 10s essentially just get, out of people's reach because that's, 4,000 US is out of, the majority of people's reaches where you'll probably see the most amount of percentage growth is in the PSA 9s and the PSA 8s. So don't discount those cards in those, higher end prospects like your
Yep.
Lamelos, your Luka Doncic's, your,
Agreed.
do I dare say it, even Zion Williamson's because
Who's this guy? Is he a prospect? Is he in this year's upcoming draft class? Is he the next big thing? I shouldn't say the word big, should I? Poor
why are you
guy.
teasing the guy? What has he ever done to you?
I don't know. He ate my wallet by the look of it. If I'd invested in
Oh
him,
my
anyway.
god. Yeah, look, so that's probably, my 2 cents of Lamelo. Look, I think you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's a
Look,
really safe buy. I think this year has been really reassuring. This guy has got legitimate game. He's not a
agreed.
flash in the pan. He wasn't something that, sort of people were buying just because everyone was buying it. Look, there's probably some truth to that. Like, let's be real. But I think if you were buying stuff, you've probably done really well. Like, this is really exciting, I think, from the hobby because I think Zion collapsing is not great for the hobby. Like, I think a
No,
lot of people,
I think it's actually the
yeah,
opposite.
have got a lot of, sort of bad taste in their mouth. And look, that's like any investment, this can happen to you, but this is sort of a feel good story, which leads us into our next feel good story, which is Ja Morant. So where are
I'm
you
glad.
sitting?
Well, before we go into the prices of Morant,
Yeah, sure.
I was faced with this quandary today.
Yeah,
I saw there was a PSA 9 jar,
yeah,
silver.
yeah.
Price point was around I think it was tagged at 495
And
AUD.
I remember you saying that seemed to be about comps.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. It's literally like it's what 350 US
yeah,
is what it is. Last sold 325 US. You know what I mean? So it's not far off. The peak was a little like a week ago. It was selling. It was sold for 375 US.
yeah,
Right. So it's around the comp. No problem. That's a silver PSA 10. The difference between the silver, sorry, the 9. This is the 10. Is last sold. It's actually dipped a little bit because the same time a week ago it was 17.95, but it's actually last sale 14.50. I jump on it at 14.50, by the way, but it's holding steady. In fact, over the last 3 months, Jar silvers are down 14%.
interesting.
Like, and I'm like, do I? This is why I was umming and ahhing. Do I spend over $450 today to get a Ja Morant PSA 9? And now the price of 14.50, I'm like, why don't I just buy it? Why don't I just buy a 10?
Yeah.
Notable though.
I mean,
The population count is very comparable for the. Oh wait, BGS 9.5s. There we go. Buy a BGS 9.5, which I could pick up for 820 US. I don't know. Ja feels like he's better than this.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on Ja Morant? Congrats to him making the All-Star team, by the way.
Yeah, look, I think his play this season has just been exceptional. And he's sort of at the point now where it's not so much is he going to be an all star, it's where is he going to be on the All NBA team?
Mm.
Because it's actually really cool to look through the all star list and have Ja Morant in your mind because as you're sort of going through the list, you're like, he's playing better than Cat, he's playing better than DeJounte Murray, Chris Middleton, Zach LaVine. Draymond's a different type of player. He's playing better than Gobert. He's playing
Did he
better than
dunk over
Booker.
Gobert?
He's dunked on everyone this year, man.
Unafraid. All right, so
He's
my
playing better
question
than
about Ja.
Lamelo, Trey, Wiggins, Tatum. You know what I mean? Like you just go through the list.
He's
like,
phenomenal.
this guy is just
Now,
outplaying people.
all right, so think about this, and look, we had a bit of a chuckle about the All-Star draft, like when they actually drafted it.
Yeah.
When KD and LeBron did their thing, LeBron was not happy when KD picked Ja Morant.
Yeah.
LeBron wanted him on the team because Ja is a unequivocally is a superstar.
Yeah.
He is that upper echelon, not a star. He is a superstar. And look, I don't think that the price of his silvers are reflective.
Yeah. So,
like they're both playing low markets.
I think the way you could say that is that he's at the moment undervalued.
Mm.
Yeah.
But my question is why?
Look, I think a lot of the hobby attention from his rookie went to Zion because it seemed pretty apparent to me that the resale of Zion was probably double. So
Yeah.
in my mind, there was a lot of value to be had buying Ja, even in his rookie year when there was like a lot of hype. You know, why is that? Yeah, I think he got overshadowed by Zion. I think he was playing in a market which is, not terribly that great. But a little bit the same with, Garland. Like the Grizzlies have played, really, really well this year. So I think really the question for me is where do you want to put your money into Ja? Like what type of cards do you want to buy? Because the sort of the thing where the water gets a little bit muddied with Ja is, the pop counts on his silvers and the pop counts on his base because, just as Zion, pop counts are high.
Yeah.
I think as, PSA, really starts to open back up again, people are going to sort of be catching because as many Zion there are raw, there's the same amount of jars, and it's just a matter of time until people, send these off to get graded. So I think, maybe what the smart play is to look at things like contenders autographs, like the contenders optic ones, the ones with the sort of the nice chrome finish.
Yeah.
Should you be looking at Ja Morant patches? Yes, you're not getting an autograph, but for a very reasonable price, you might get a pretty juicy patch.
Yeah, this is true.
So, for me, that's what I would be looking at because I probably think the problem with buying into Prism and the problem with buying into graded stuff of Ja is that I think long term, as these pop counts start to go up into potentially six figures, like 100,000 cards is a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're buying something that's numbered, even if the numbering is out to 300 or
there's a cap
or 200, that's still
there's a cap. There's literally a cap.
That's 100 times less.
There's no way there could be more than 300 of a 300 or more of a card that's numbered to 299.
Yeah. So that's probably, where I'm sitting with Ja at the moment. I think
so. Chase the obscure. Is that the advice? Chase numbered stuff.
Yeah,
think outside the box.
Yeah, exactly. Think outside the box. Look, if you tell me, Russell, I appreciate your advice, but I don't want to take it. I just want to go with the safe bet, which is Prism.
I get that a lot. People don't call me Russell. They just appreciate me. They say nah. Thanks for the advice, but I'm good.
Yeah, and look, that's if you say that to me, I'm not going to argue with you because there's nothing wrong with making a safe play.
I was about to say, it's nothing wrong with being wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I also don't think too, there's anything wrong with looking at, low end flawless patches. I don't think there's anything looking at
No,
low
no, no,
end
no.
national treasures. I don't think there's anything wrong at looking like low end to medium end noir because, Crown Royale, same thing. I think you can pick up some really nice numbered stuff there. And I would probably also say too, you are going to pay a lot more than what you would pay for, say, Garland at this stage. Like the train has left the station on Jar, and what we're really talking about now is this guy going to be an all-star for multiple years, or is he going to be all NBA for multiple years? So I suppose that's really
Yeah,
the
yeah.
difference between Ja
This,
Morant and Darius Garland.
well,
Garland, you kind of like, you're not really too sure where this guy's going to end up, whereas with Ja, it's like,
you
you know,
know he's going. It's not if he's going to be an all-star next year. It's how many times he's going to be an all-star in his
exactly,
career.
this guy's supernova. Like, let's keep it real. Yeah,
Um, so I suppose like this is something we talk about on a future episode. But
yeah.
is there a difference? And this is goes down to speculation. Do you buy 25 PSA? Well, not even PSA raw. Do you know what I mean? Like Bagleys silver at $20 each because they're junk, and he gets traded, plays well for 2 weeks, wait till they double in value and sell all of them, or do you buy one jar and watch it just gradually go up over the years?
I mean, I think that's a different conversation because, like,
It's flip versus invest,
yeah,
right?
like what we're talking about now is like, we're specifically talking about, the all-star players, but if you're talking about prospecting, I don't think
Mm.
there's anything wrong with prospecting Bagley right now because he's super low and probably not going to get any lower.
Oh, look, I'm just talking about like we know where Jar's headed,
Yeah,
right? And I'm not saying, and that's why I didn't use Garland as the example, but
yeah,
Garland's not a accumulator few because you use the 10 of him versus a Mello
yeah.
for the same price point. I'm like, is it smarter when you're trying to flip cards to buy a lot of something cheap that's going to go up a lot, or
I think it
do you know what I
depends on
mean?
you. Yeah, I think it depends on your budget. Like, let's be real here, because
And it's
how
also the
many
player though. Like the
how many people
player
have
is a
$4,000 to buy, multiple Lamelo PSA 10s? Like, I don't.
there'd be a few people at the hobby hangout today that would have.
Yeah, definitely,
That,
definitely.
but
There's
but this
like
is
there's
but this is also the question is: are you investing or are you trying to flip quick? Because we've just discussed that Ja Morant is a long term prospect.
if I'm buying Ja Morant now, I'm buying it because I believe in him long term,
Yep,
and I'm holding that as like a key piece to my collection. That's how I would
correct.
feel about that purchase. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
That's the answer to your question.
yep.
So the question I did want to talk to you about is that some people have got Lamelo Ball redemptions, and
Oh yes.
they've waited their 120 days, and instead of waiting for him to sign, and I've heard some people say that I've waited long enough for the little shit to sign, and I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm going to get a replacement.
Who would call that man a little shit?
I think their argument is that he's essentially, holding Panini to ransom to sign his autographs. So,
Oh wow.
you know, like good for him. He's in a strong negotiating position. I respect his moxie. But I mean, we want our card signed, bro. Like, help us out here.
Yeah, exactly. But,
Yeah.
well, but this is the thing. Like, I mean, yeah. So your question.
So the question is, and look, some people have chosen not to wait anymore. They're getting replacements, and it seems to be anecdotally the most common replacement at the moment is a Ja Morant card, which presents a very juicy question for you, my friend.
Yes.
What are you taking? Are you waiting for the Lamelo Ball auto, or are you taking a Ja Morant, considering that this guy is like supernova
The
right now?
real deal,
Yeah,
supernova. Now, LaMelo's an interesting one. I think he has the potential of having a very similar trajectory.
yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna say I stick with LaMelo with an asterisk, and
No,
then
you're
and the
not allowed to have asterisks. You have
there's
to
got to be an
choose.
asterisk.
No, mate. You have a redemption. You can either take your Lamelo
I'm
and you
taking
get
my
to
LaMelo.
you have to keep waiting the days,
Can
or you
I?
can say I'll take my luck in the
Um,
crapshoot, which is Panini replacement, and I'm gonna maybe get a Ja Morant.
do you know what? Do you know what happens though? If I do take the crapshoot,
Yeah.
I don't end up with a Ja Morant.
You get a white box Larry Nance 1 of 1.
I wasn't going to be that harsh on on Panini, but yeah, like I'm going to get a Markel Fultz in exchange.
Okay, so I'm glad you said what you said because actually I'm going for Ja Morant, and
Yeah.
this is my reason why. At this very minute in time, he's 1 more year established, so it's like 1 more year of sample size, which gives me more reassurances that it's
Mhm.
Ja Morant. The other thing too is the type of player that they are. So if you use the Michael Jordan Scottie Pippen analogy, Scottie Pippen in this is Lamelo Ball. He's the guy who sets everybody up and he makes everyone around him better.
Yep.
But the number one go-to guy I take the shot
He's
at the end of
Ja.
the game is Ja Morant, which is the
Yep.
Michael Jordan. And I'm not saying Ja Morant's Michael Jordan.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm just using those two as like sort of a running analogy. I
All right,
think
I'll be cutting that for clips. It's yeah.
I think that matters. I think that matters in real life, and I think that
Yeah.
matters in hobby, potential. So I
Now,
think
I'm saying if it's not Panini and I can just automatically swap for a Ja Morant, I'm taking Ja. FYI.
yeah.
I'm just not prepared to gamble on losing my Mellow. I'm not
Yeah.
going to give up on the little shit just yet.
Yeah, and that's kind of like some guys are more likely to gamble than others, but that to me
All right, so
that is a gamble. To be honest, I probably wouldn't be willing to take because
imagine you got Zions that are in redemption. Do you take replacements now? Zion's an interesting one.
so who would be you can't say Ja Morant. I don't think they would give you a jar for a Zion at the moment. So
No, they
who would you
wouldn't.
say is like a relative prospect, comparable to Zion?
Greg Oden. Relative to Zion compared to,
What about Trey Young?
I'd take a Trey. I would take Trey in a heartbeat.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool conversation too, to be honest, because like Zion could come back like number one with a bullet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's a world that you've waited too long. You're seeing this guy walk around with all the chubby pictures. You're hearing the rumors about him needing another foot surgery, and you're like, okay, I'm clapping out. I'll take a Trey Young, and then he comes back and he's like Sean Kemp, and
Just dominates the league.
yeah, and
Turns the league on its ear. Yeah.
CJ McCollum's there to like be his sort of whisperer in his ear
Yeah.
to like set in.
The Pelicans win 3 championships in a row, and all of a sudden everybody's eating their
Yeah, I mean, all jokes aside about the New Orleans Pelicans, and we are segueing like hardcore here. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so their last 10, they're actually 5-5, which, considering their win percentage is 40%,
They're trending up.
yeah, they are absolutely trending up. And I haven't caught a lot of Pelicans basketball. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched 40 of their like 60 games because I haven't.
Yeah.
But CJ McCollum's been playing really well for them. So, it's not outrageous to think that
Maybe
he's going to come good. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's do our last guy because this guy, I think he, again, also deserves some kudos. And
I'm going to say, you're going to say he deserves kudos, and I'm going to bet that he's done nothing in the card world.
I don't know about nothing, but...
All right, I'm sure someone bought one once. Now, the question is, are there more Aaron Holiday fans? I'm so sorry to the guys that actually do collect Aaron Holiday. That was terrible of me.
It was just mean, yeah.
That was, I feel terrible. I don't feel terrible. I just can't believe that it was straight away tagged the collectors. I'm like, God, I've been dobbed in. He's not the person we're talking about.
He's in his eighth year this year. It's Andrew Wiggins. So not only is it first-time All-Star, he's also a starter this year too. And I think, look, there was a bit of sort of criticism.
There's a lot of criticism about the fact that he's a starter.
But what is super interesting to me, and I actually didn't know this until we sort of did our 2 seconds of research before today's episode, he's only 26 years old.
He's young.
He came into the league.
He was a kid.
Yeah.
He was going to be the next Kobe, wasn't he?
I thought it was more like the next
He's a volume shooter.
Carmelo Anthony, but maybe was a bit more athletic and could defend a little bit more, but he just hasn't had the scoring chops.
Yeah. The one thing everyone thought he could do really well, he hasn't been able to do really well. And then he had no defense, which was pretty bad.
Well, he's actually up to 18th in defensive win shares this year.
It's impressive.
That's like you can't. We can't not give this dude props.
Oh look, no doubt,
Yeah,
props.
he has completely turned his career around, and you know, congratulations to him.
Look, Wiggins deserves a lot of credit on the floor.
Yeah,
I'm just looking through card ladder, and there's not a lot of Andrew Wiggins out there.
yeah.
He hasn't really moved the needle.
No, and that's super interesting to me because a base PSA 10 last sold for 72 US.
Mm-hmm. And look, that 70 to 75 range is pretty much where he's been sitting for the last 3 months.
Yeah, I thought this guy would have spiked hard.
Silver's not a lot of movement at all.
What's his pop count on the silvers, mate?
Pop count of 66 on the PSA 10s and 17 on the 9s. Yeah, there's only 17 9s in existence. Might be rarer to get a PSA 9.
See, this is the difference between 2014 Prism and 2022.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
a buy, man. 66 pop count of a PSA 10 at the
$400
$400 mark for an All-Star. That's a buy. He's 26. Like, in my mind, he's 36. He's been around forever.
Yeah, I'd say he's closer to 30 than he is, but I think the All-Star, as far as it's taken this long for him to blossom, my take on this is it's kind of that fool me once philosophy, and we're like, you made the All-Star game, I'm not investing yet. You help the Warriors win another title, then we talk about Wiggins being the real deal, or finally being the real deal. But
Yeah.
that's just Look,
that's fine, man. I do understand the sentiment of what you're saying, and I would even go so far as I agree with it. I think probably, my difference in opinion is that
are you just on pure numbers?
Yeah, but you can still, this guy, it's crazy to say this.
He's young.
Only 26. Like, you could still say that you're prospecting this kid. Like, the rookie that came in this year in Indiana is like 22.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll use Kyle Kuzma was 22, 23 when he came into the league.
Yeah.
He'd done 4 years.
That means something. And I think the other thing that is, if we don't say this, we're not being reasonable to Golden State. This says so much more about the Golden State Warriors than it does about the Minnesota Timberwolves, because this is really about environment and it's really about mentorship.
Culture.
Yeah. And people putting him into a position to succeed. It's almost like that employer that looks after their staff, takes them out for all the, the working lunches and all that type of stuff, and everything's organized at work, as opposed to the workplace that like cuts costs on everything, and everything every day that you go to work, it just seems like you're just trying to like catch your breath, and because everything's so disorganized. Like,
yeah, agreed. It's the guy that owned Virgin, Richard Branson.
Yeah.
He's like, if you treat your staff well, your staff will work harder for you.
And this is Andrew Wiggins.
This guy has gone to Golden State and he's like, oh my God, this program is everything everybody made it out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So, buy, hold, sell Andrew Wiggins, mate. What do you think about that?
Hold.
Really?
Hold.
Okay.
I'm not buying it if I don't have it already.
Interesting.
As I said, fool me once, but we've been down this. He's strung a few games together, and this is a few more than a few because he's got an all-star selection. But we'll see what the end of the season brings.
So
he's also the third or fourth string in this lineup.
Yeah, but I think you could spend $400 at the moment in the NBA hobby far worse than on an Andrew Wiggins PSA 10 silver. That pop count is so low. Like, we are not going to see those pop counts pretty well again. So there's that you cannot go past, and you can't argue any other way. And also, too, you can't tell me in the next 2 years the Warriors can't win the championship.
Oh, look, they can. They certainly can. All right, my counter question.
Yeah, hit me.
Am I buying James Wiseman or am I buying Andrew Wiggins?
No. Wiseman's not in the conversation for me.
But we're prospecting on someone. He's only, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Wiggins has already run his race.
No, I disagree on that. I think Wiggins still has room to improve.
Mm,
The the difference between like right now as we're sitting on Wiggins and Wiseman is that Wiggins is actually coming good. Whereas Wiseman hasn't even been able to get onto the court.
agreed.
And actually what you're seeing now, he's still progressively sliding down. And if
Yeah.
look,
Yep. Fair
if you
point.
say to me, I'm buying Wiseman at the moment because I just can't go past his prices, I'm totally fine with that. The only thing you need to keep in mind with Wiseman is that most likely you're not going to see him get very much meaningful court time. I would say the maximum amount of court time you would expect him to get is about 13 minutes a game
All right.
because
So
Draymond's been playing center, Looney's been playing exceptionally well, and they've been playing Kaminga at center,
yeah, that's fair.
right?
So I'll give you my hypothetical though on
Hang on a
the
sec,
do I invest?
just 1 second though, because if you're buying into Wiseman, that's fine. I'm not trying to talk you out of this. What I'm going to say
Sure.
is this is a 3-year purchase because the best case scenario is that Wiseman gets traded and he gets to play somewhere else.
Yep.
Like truthfully,
But all right, current price is 60 US, but
for a
we'll
what? For a
for a
what, mate?
Wiseman silver raw.
Raw.
Yeah.
I think you could pick up one cheaper.
I'm saying if they were $50 each,
50
why
Aussie.
would or 50 US, I will say. We'll use
Sure,
say 40 US. There we go.
sure.
Do I buy 10 Wiseman raw Wisemans with the intent to grade,
Yeah.
or do I buy one Wiggins silver?
Okay, fine. There's more growth potential in 10 Wisemans.
Wisemans.
Yeah, but I
I
would
just I
probably
don't I don't I don't think Wiggins has got a high enough ceiling anymore. I think
yeah.
he shot himself in the foot in the first 5 years of his career that his ceiling dropped.
But I can't not say this at the end of my sentence. I would say you've got more chance of shooting your load and losing all of your money on your Wisemans.
Big crapshoot on Wiseman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because this guy could also be $20 soon.
that's true. I don't disagree.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
just yeah.
I think there's like much more higher variability on Wiseman,
Yeah.
but I think Wiggins right now, like you can't go past that. That pop count is low. He is still young,
Yeah.
and
I'm just saying the Wiseman stuff, if I feel like Wiseman has a higher ceiling. That was the point I was gonna make.
okay,
Yeah. I think Wiggins in the first 5 or 6 years of his career
yeah.
shot himself in the foot with his ceiling.
But he was on a terrible team, and I
This
think
is I don't discount that at all.
yeah, and
But
I think
he
this is really like showing itself. Like this is what culture means.
and it yeah, unfortunately I feel like it's for hobby value, I feel like he's never, even if he gets to the heights of God, he's never going to be all right, so we'll go saying Ja Morant's ridiculous because he's the third string in
No,
a super team right at
I'm
the
definitely
moment.
not saying that. No.
So who's his comp? Is he a who does he where is his ceiling? This is what I'm unsure about.
Yeah, that's really hard, isn't it?
Because
So if you look through the All Stars, lower than Ja Morant, lower than Jason Tatum, lower than Trey, lower than Lamelo, lower than Booker, higher than Gobert, higher than Draymond. Zach Levine, what about that?
Zach Levine. Okay, let's have a look at Zach.
He's higher than Chris Middleton, I think. Lower than Towns, lower than Steph. DeMar DeRozan, he's really picked up this year, so you could maybe put them into the same conversation. Lower than Joker. Jimmy Butler, maybe in the same conversation. Lower than Luca. I think it's going to be lower than Garland. I think Garland's going to be good.
So
Harden's
he's got a
high.
lower ceiling than Zach Levine.
Oh,
Zach Levine.
I think Zach Levine is in the same. I think that's a good comp. That's what off the top of my head. What do
Okay,
you?
someone that's changed that. Funnily, and it's a funny story that he came from Minnesota, right?
Yeah, they both
Right.
came out of Minnesota.
And now he's in Chicago and he's like top dog.
Yeah,
Okay, PSA 10 base, $200.
Zach Levine.
Yep. Silver, PSA 10, 1,250. On the
Interesting.
decline, but neither here nor there. It's not a huge drop. It's
Okay.
Well, 1,450 to 1,250 is a bit of a drop actually, but
So in that case, I would say that yeah, that actually helps me think it's more value.
You reckon he's going to, and this is where I'll go to the PSA 9 silvers, Pop 48,
I think it's reasonable to put Wiggins
PSA
and
10.
Levine into the same sentence.
Yeah,
And
they've both got population reports of 40 something with the 9s and 10s in PSA.
the
So
fact that Wiggins is 3 times less than Levine, it kind of like makes me feel a little bit better, actually.
Levine, all right, so the reason I think Levine is a little bit better of a, like it's a similar comp,
Yeah, sure.
don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
Levine's a top 2 dog, whereas I think Wiggins is a third string.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that hurts Wiggins. That's my only gripe is
he's definitely a Scottie Pippen. He can't be a number one. I 100% agree with you on that.
He's tried. That was the problem. He tried to be that number one for 5 seasons, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So the consolation to that is he now accepts the role he's been given.
Yeah.
Because he's what's ahead of him on the floor? 2 of the greatest 3-point shooters of all time.
Well, I think
he plays the 3, but
I mean, look, yes, Clay is on the court now, but to be fair, he wasn't for most of the season. I think the important component in this is Steph Curry. I think that guy's, and I've said this already on the pod, I think that guy's leadership qualities is just, generational. And
yeah, on the floor and off the floor, the guy's yeah.
Just like one last segue, actually, and this is why I didn't agree with Karl Anthony Towns to be voted into the All-Star weekend this year, because I don't think he's the emotional leader of that team. I think that Ant-Man is. And I think Anthony Edwards should have been voted into the All-Star weekend this weekend.
Whoa, big call. I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
You watch them play.
Ant-Man,
you watch them who they rally around. It's not Cat.
Well, this is why do you think why do you think there were all these chemistry problems? Why do you think there's always been chemistry problems? Because Cat thinks he's the alpha, and he's not the alpha.
I don't think he thinks he's the alpha. I just don't think he can be the alpha,
I don't think he's capable of it.
Yeah. I think if that team is going to be good, which they're definitely looking much better this year.
It's certainly looking better.
Edwards is the one to, move them forward.
Yeah.
Let's tie this
Spurs week with a bit of salt for the old Minnesota fans.
Yeah. Let's tie this bad boy off, my friend. Any last thoughts?
Cannot wait to the next hobby hangout.
Yeah, me too. I was just thinking that, when's the next one? Like, can someone please organize another one?
Look, after avoiding it because I knew I'd let my impulses take over.
You're pretty restrained.
I was very restrained. I avoided going through too many card boxes. Now I want to get back and have a crack at those $5 boxes and dollar boxes. And you know what? I think it might be nice to go and visit a few stores now that we're sort of all the restrictions are lifted.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Let's go to EJ's and look at the card boxes down there, and
let's do something like that. Let's go to a couple of stores and we can talk about it on the show if we found anything cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting times. It's good to see the hobby back to where it was in its social aspect. It's all well and good chatting with people in Facebook groups.
Yeah, it's awesome, but
it doesn't take away from the good part, the best part, which is face-to-face with people, interacting, flicking through card boxes.
Yeah.
So hats off the hobby hangout.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the life of Brian, the bartering. It's like, no, you're supposed to offer me this. That's not how you haggle. You're supposed to say, I'd only give you 10. Anyway, but you can't take that away from the hobby. Great job by the hobby hangout. It was a fantastic weekend.
Yep.
Really looking forward to the next one.
Yep.
Really hope they've got a slightly bigger venue.
Yeah, look,
they might need it.
And that's like they're a victim of their own success in some ways.
You know what?
The venue was too small. Yeah.
If you get a slightly larger venue and some more speakers and actually have it like a multiple speakers across the weekend or across the day.
Yeah.
Whereas like a Q&A in each room and people can go to the things that they want to go to.
Like an academic conference where you kind of have different rooms you can go into. Yeah.
Yep. And then just have different people at different time spots talking about different things. Investment, starting a card store, just stories about people's journey, about people's experiences.
Yep.
Some collectors, some spotlight collectors. That'd just be really cool. But I think you've got to separate it from the vendor side of it. And maybe just a little bit clearer with the trade zone because we were sheep today, and we sort of, the flock went in and we didn't know what to do as far as the trade zone was concerned. I mean,
It was confronting, man.
Well, we spent the last 2 years behind masks and indoors.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? There's like 1,000 people in a room. We're not used to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll all be a lot better at it next time, but
yeah,
it was a fantastic weekend. I had an absolute blast. Cannot wait to do it again.
No, it was amazing.
Yep.
So I echo all of your closing thoughts. The only thing I wanted to add is that I wanted to thank all of our listeners, because I can definitely feel the support around us growing.
Yeah.
And I think objectively, our numbers are improving every week. So thank you, everyone, for your support.
Well, thanks to our guests as well that have sort of been sharing their experience with the podcast. Big shout out to Charlie from Cherry.
Yeah.
And look, we're going to have some big guests in the coming weeks, hopefully.
Yep.
As a result of different discussions through the Hobby Hangout. So both the listeners, the guests, the support, it's been great.
We've reached out to Platinum. We've reached out to Jaden. We've reached out to...
I even subbed some cards with Platinum just to see if it'd snag us an interview. If not, it'll just be a complaint chain of the emails and my card's not coming back in time. I don't know. It could be...
Just to be clear to all future guests, we're not paying you to come on here, okay?
That's it. I'm not going to... No.
This is not how we roll. It
reminds me I have to send my cards off to be subbed with Lane. I am kidding for most of these things. Nothing to do with the show.
Right. Thanks so much, Legend. I appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure as always. Great weekend. Can't wait for the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.